It's Parshas Va'era. So in the beginning of the parsha it says, "Lachein emor levnei Yisrael ani Hashem." HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu to tell the Yidden ani Hashem v'hitzeisi eschem mitachas sivlois Mitzrayim. I'll bring you out from the under the yoke of the Mitzrim. V'hitzalti eschem me'avodosam. I will save you from the slavery. V'galti eschem bezroya netuyo b'shvatim gedolim. V'lakachti eschem li la'om v'hayisti lachem le'loikim v'yadatem ki ani Hashem hamoitzi eschem mitachas sivlois Mitzrayim. So we have over here four Lashonos shel Geula, as we know, v'hoitzeisi, v'hitzalti, v'go'alti, v'lakachti. The Mishnah says in the beginning of Arvei Psachim, in Masechtes Psachim, obviously, that Arvei Psachim samuch lemincha, lo yoichal odom ad shetechshach, afilu oni shebiyisrael lo yoichal ad sheyisav, v'lo yifchesu lo me'arba koisois shel yayin, v'afilu minha tamchui. So Rashi says, arba koisois keneged arbo l'shoinei geula ha'amurim geula begolus Mitzrayim v'yitzeisi eschem v'yitzalti eschem v'go'alti eschem v'lakachti eschem Parshas Va'era. And so also the Rashbam brings this in the name of the Bereshis Rabbah. Now, the fact that the Mishnah spells out that afila oni shebi Yisrael lo yoichal ad sheyisav, Tosfos says that that's because we might have thought that Ani Shebi Yisrael she'ein loy al mala hosev, he doesn't have the proper couch to be mesiv on, so maybe he's potter from haseva, and that's why the Mishnah needs to say that he's chayiv, because we would think that ein zu derech cherus. We would think that if he doesn't have on what to be mesiv, it's not derech cherus. The poskim say that the kamash malon, that he should borrow, and that also will suffice for derech cherus. It's interesting because the Mishnah also mentions the chiyuv of dalit koises by the Oni Shebi Yisrael, because the Mishnah says v'lo yifkesu loy me'arba koises v'afilu min hatamchui. There's no other place that the Mishnah mentions the chiyuv of arba koises, only over here. So the chiyuv of arba koises also appears in the Mishnah in the context of an Oni Shebi Yisrael, that lo yifkesu loy me'arba koises afilu min hatamchui. So why is that? But the Emes is, the Gemara says on Daf Kufiyat Zayin Amid Beis in Psachim, arba kasi tiknu rabbanon derech cherus. So you see that the arba koises is also derech cherus. Since the arba koises is also derech cherus, so probably we would have a havamina that Oni should be Yisrael, for the same reason as we would have a havamina that he doesn't have to be mesiv. We would have a havamina that he doesn't have to have arba koises. We might have thought that arba koises min hatamchui is not derech cherus. He has to have his own. Kamashmal on the Mishnah, that's also derech cherus. So happens that these four Lashonos shel Geula were told to Klal Yisrael when they were still in a state of koitzer ruach va'avoda kosher, and it seemed as if lo yishamu el Moshe. But nevertheless, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's boichen kloyoitz v'leiv, tells Moshe Rabbeinu to tell them v'hitzeisi v'hitzalti v'go'alti v'lakachti. So it means probably that even if it seems like lo yishamu el Moshe, but nevertheless, on some level, they do absorb the message. So, which means that these Lashonos of Geula are part of the derech cherus. It's the beginning of a long road towards freedom. And still in the state of koitzer ruach v'avoda kosher, one could already connect with the v'hoitzeisi v'hitzalti v'go'alti v'lakachti. And therefore, it's no wonder that we say that even the Oni Shebi Yisrael is expected to be able to connect with derech cherus, and therefore loy yifchesu loy me arba koises shel yayin va'afilu min hatamchui. We all know that Yetzias Mitzrayim has two dimensions. It's in the physical sense, a Yetzia me avdus lecherus, but besides for that, it's also a Yetzia from the avdus to the melech zakein uksil, to the paroi that we have within ourselves. We know that b'chol dor v'dor chayiv adam lirois es atzmoi ki'ilu yotza miMitzrayim. In the Sefer Charedim, in the Sefer HaTanya, in the Shloah Kodesh, it says that it's b'chol yoim v'yoim chayiv adam lirois es atzmoi ki'ilu hu yotza miMitzrayim. Every day. And that's because Yetzias Mitzrayim is like the Chinuch says, a Yesoid Godol v'omud chozak be'emunaseinu u'b'toiraseinu. So Avada the Chiyuv of Lirois es Atzmai Ki'ilu Yotza miMitzrayim also refers to the Ruchniisnike redemption, the spiritual redemption from Mitzrayim, the Yetzia me'afela le'or Godel. And you know, it says that Ispashtuse de Moshe b'chol dora v'dora. It says in the Zohar that in every Yid there's a nitzoitz of Moshe Rabbeinu in every Yid, and Memela, it's the Moshe Rabbeinu that that's within us that needs to talk to us and tell us, and Moral b'nei Yisrael, that Ani Hashem. And v'lokachti eschem v'galti v'itzalti eschem v'galti eschem v'lokachti eschem, and that we could come to v'yadatem es ani Hashem, and we will come to v'yadatem es ani Hashem. So even when we feel as if we're not listening to that Moshe, we have to continue to talk to ourselves, because as we see, the Rebbeinu Shalom tells Moshe Rabbeinu to talk to the Yidden even when it seems like lo shamu al Moshe. They're in a state of koitzer ruach and avodah kosher. The same as with each one of us. We might feel that we're in a koitzer ruach and avodah kosher and we can't hear the positive message of Moshe Rabbeinu, but we could hear and we will absorb it. And that's the beginning of the derech cherus. Now, in spite of the fact that Rashi in the Mishnah brings that the source of the Dalit Koises is the four Lashonis of Geula that appear in Parshas Va'era, but further on, in Masechtes Pesachim and Daf Kuf Ches Amud Aleph, we have a Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Noshim Chayovoitz ba'arba koisei salolu she'af hein hoyu ba'oisei hanes. And over there Rashi says arba koiseis shloisha keneged gimel koises shenemru bepasuk v'kois paroi biyodi v'ekech es ha'anovim v'eschat oisom El kois paroi ve'etein es hakois al kaf paroi urevi birchas amos. So, first of all, why did Rashi change from what he said in the Mishnah? The Mishnah, he said that the source is the Dalid Lashonis of Geula, and over here Rashi says that the source is the three times that it says kois in the dream of the Sarah Mashkin, and then we have a fourth kois for birchas amos. The emes is both these sources for Dalit Koises appear in the Yerushalmi. It says, Minayin la'arba Koises, Rabbi Yochanan b'shem Rebenoye, Keneged arba geulois, V'itzeisi v'itzalti v'galti v'lokachti, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Omar, Keneged arba Koises shel paroi, V'kois paroi b'yodi, V'eschoit oisom el kois paroi, V'etein es hakois al kaf paroi, V'nosata kois paroi b'yodi. Now, the Meiri over there explains what does this have to do with the night of the Seder. The Meiri says because this was in Yonam Hoya Sibo Legeulas Mitzrayim. This is how Yosef eventually came out of the Beis HaAsurim, and eventually the whole story unfolded. So this is Shayach to Geulas Mitzrayim, so says the Meiri. But we still don't know. Why did Rashi change that in the Mishnah? He brought the time of Dalid Lashonis Shegeula, and now he says it has to do with the koises of the Sarah Mashkin. So first of all, we see that Rashi had a different gears than the Yerushalmi, because in our Yerushalmi it says that it's connected the 4 koises that appear by the Sarah Mashkin. The 3 koises in Pasuk Yud Aleph, where the Sarah Mashkin tells his dream to Yosef, and the 4th kois is in Pasuk Yud Gimel, where Yosef is poiseh the cholim, and he tells him that you will put the kois, you will put the kois b'dei parah. So according to the Yerushalmi, all the 4 koises are from there. Rashi, who was only Geras that we have in the Yerushalmi, the 3 koises of the dream, and not the kois of the pisroin, Rashi had to say that the 4th kois is the kois of Birchas Hamazon, and it's not connected to the koises of Parah. According to this, Avada, the Tam of Rabbi Yochanan, that says that all the 4 koises come from the Daled L'Shogeg Shegula, is Meruvach Tvei, is a better Tam. That's why Rashi in the Mishnah brought Rabbi Yochanan's Tam, Daled L'Shogeg Shegula. Why in the Gemara did he switch to bring the Tam of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi? That's probably because that memra of Noshim Chayavois Ba'arba Koises is a memra of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Noshim Chayavois Ba'arba Koises, because Afein Hoy Bois Anes, since it's a memra of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, so Rashi follows Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi's explanation. Now, the Tur in Orach Chaim Siman Tov Pei Gimel says, Kosav Bal Ha'itur, Misha Ein Lo Yayin, Over Adi Rabbonon, the Amri, V'lo Yifchisu Lo Me'arba Koises. So somebody that doesn't have wine, and he's not Mekayim the mitzvah of Arba Koises, he's over on a Dirabbonon. V'tzorich Limkor Masha Yeshloi Lekayim Mitzvah Dirabbonon. V'lo Yismoich Al HaPas. Don't rely on pas. She'im kiyem kois echod, loy kiyem ashloisha. Because with pas, true, you could be mekayim one of the 4 koises, but the other 4 koises you don't have. So we see that the Baal Yiter holds that the kois rishon of the Dalet koises, you could be mekayim with pas. It's only the other 3 that you can't be mekayim with pas. And as I stated in Beis Yosef Koloima, shekiven shehu mekadesh al hapas, Harekiyem hamitzvah hanasis bekois echad. Aval gimel koisos acherim loy kiyem. So this is l'chara a pliya atzuma, because it's true that the halacha is that you could be mekayim kiddush b'leil Shabbos on pas, but what does it have to do with the mitzvah of dalet koises that l'chara they were masakin Dalet Koises Shel Yayin? I mean, because you could be Mekayim Kiddush Al Hapas, you were Yoitze that Kois from the Dalet Koises. It's a pel. So probably we need to say, that Tosfos in the beginning of Perek Arvei Psachim says, "V'lo yifchasu loy me'arba koises, v'lo yifchasu loy me'arba koises." Now this Oni Mi Yisrael, Tosfos assumes, has a family. And we're only saying v'lo yifchasu loy me'arba koises. Zok Tosfos mitoich haloshen mashma k'tzas she'ein noisnin lebonov ulebnei beisoy ki im le'atzmoy. V'hu moitzi es kulam b'sheloi. And Tosfos says, "Usfaru." Yeah, I understand it. The Maishna arba koises mikiddush d'chol hashana she'echad moitzi es kulam. So the Brisker Rov in his Sefer on the Rambam says, "Ukvar shomati mi Adoni Ovi Mori v'Rabbi Hagoin Zeichet Tzadik Levroche she'tomo al divrei Tosfos elu." The my Indian arba koises l'kiddush d'chol hashana. True, you could be yoitze with Shemei Koine in kiddush d'chol hashana. The hasam hamitzvah hi abroche v'zehu ikra kiddush ubazeh havidine d'Shemei Koine. Havu ba'arba koisos. Havu ikra mitzvah hi ashtia shel adalas koises u'ma shayach lohoitzi bazeh. V'hichiach mizes Reb Chaim proved from this Tosfos. The Svira Lahula HaTosfos, the Gam Ba'arba Koises ein Iker HaMitzvah B'Shtiyas HaKoises. V'havi mamish dugmas kiddush l'chol hashon. And he's marich in this. So lefize, we could understand that the Balaita holds that since the yisoid of the takana of Dalet Koises is amiras dvorim al hakoises, like kiddush, which is amiras kiddush al hakois. So, since in kiddush you could be mekayim the dvorim al hakois with kiddush al hapas, so also you could be mekayim the first kois, the din of dvorim anemorim on the first kois with pas b'makoim a kois. However, if you look weiter in the Briskerov, he proves that there are two halachas in the arba koises. There's also a din of dvorim hanemorim al hakois, but there's also a din of drinking koises derech cherus. Lefizeh, we still don't understand the Balaita that you could be mekayim the kois rishon with pas, because true that let's say even that the din of dvorim hanemorim al hakois you could be mekayim with pas. But what's happening with the shtias yayin derech cherus? Oh, so maybe we can suggest that these two halachas that there are in arba koises, one is like the Briskerov is saying, one is dvorim hanemorim al hakois, and the other is drinking dalit koises shel yayin. We can say that the source for these two halachas in arba koises are the two sources of Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Levi. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan that learned Dalet Koises from V'hoitzeisi v'itzalti v'ga'alti v'lakachti, over there's no wine. It's just V'hoitzeisi v'itzalti v'ga'alti v'lakachti, Dalet l'shoynes shel ge'ula. So we can say that that's the source for the takanta of Dvorim hane'emorim al hakois. But it doesn't give us a source for drinking wine. Whereas the Rabbi Shua ben Levi's makar, that's from the koisos of the Sarah Mashkin, which is talking about koisos shel yayin, that's the source for the halacha that we have in Arba koisos, that they were masakin to drink dalit koisos shel yayin. Okay, now, if we'll say so, we can say that the Balaita was Geiris in the Yerushalmi like Rashi, that we're only learning 3 koises from the Sar HaMashkin, because the kois of the Pisroin is not included. The 3 koises of the dream are the 3 koises that we learn from there, and then there's 1 kois that we don't learn from there. Rashi said the 1 kois that we don't learn from there is the kois shel Birchas HaMazon. The Balaita held that the 1 kois that we don't learn from there is the kois shel Kiddush. And Memela, there are only 3 koises of wine that you have to drink. Those are the koises that come from the Sarah Mashkin. Whereas there's 1 kois that only has the halacha of Dvarim hanemorim al hakois. And that's the kois shel Kiddush, according to the Baal HaItur. And therefore he holds that the kois shel Kiddush, you could be yotzeh with Kiddush al hapas. Now, according to the Yerushalmi, according to our Gersa in the Yerushalmi, that we have all the 4 koises from Paroi. That's what we have the Dalet koises for. So 3 of them are in the dream, and 1 of them is in the Pisroin. 3 of them are in 1 pasuk, and 1 is in the next in 2 psukim later. And the same is if we learn it from the Daled L'shoynes Shel Geula in our parsha. 3 of the Daled L'shoynes Shel Geula are in 1 pasuk, and the 4th is in a separate pasuk. But nevertheless, lahalacha, we say that Bein HaKoisos Halolu Imrotza Lishtois Shoise, that between the koises you're allowed to be mafsik with another shtia. Bein Shlishi L'Revi Lo Yifsik. Between the 3rd and the 4th, you're not allowed to be mafsik. So l'chayr, it's interesting. I mean, so happens the 3 koises are in 1 pasuk, both according to the Bavli and both according to the time of Rabbi Yochanan and according to the time of Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Those koises you could be mafsik, but to be mafsik between the 3 and the 1 that's in a separate pasuk, according to everyone, that you're not allowed to be mafsik. So al korchoch, it's hein advarim. that the three that are in one pasuk are connected intrinsically, and therefore it doesn't matter if you drink something else in between. Whereas the fourth kos, which is in a separate pasuk, is not automatically connected. Over there, with dafka makpid, that you should make the connection, and you should not be mafsik between the three and the four. Now, in other words, because there's a fundamental difference between the three and the fourth. I mean, by the crisis of Pari, the three are in the dream and one is in the pisroin. So also in the Lashonis Shel Geula in our parsha, the three are talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim per se, whereas the fourth, the Lakachti Eschem Lila is talking about Matan Torah, as the Ibn Ezra and the Ramban say. So here, Dafke, we're makbid on the Ibur, to show that just like there's no value to a chaloim without a pisroin, there's no value to Yetzias Mitzrayim without Matan Torah. As the Ramban writes in the Hagdamah to Chumash Shemois, V'hinei hagolus einoi nishlam ad yoim shuvam el mekoimam vel mailas avoisam yoshuvu. So the golus is not over until shuvam el mekoimam vel mailas avoisam yoshuvu. Ukshiyotzu miMitzrayim, afal pishiyotzu miBeis Avodim, adayin yechoshvu goylim v'chulei. Ukshebo el Har Sinai v'osu hamishkan v'shov HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'hishra shchinosoi beinehem oz shavu el mailas avoisam v'oz nechshevu geulim. So therefore, the Lakachti Eschem Lila which the Ramban and the Ibn Ezra say is talking about Matan Torah, is one of the four Lashonos Shel Geula, because this is really shaykh to the Geula. And the Maharal talks this out in the Gvuras Hashem, Perek Samach. He says, "U'mipnei she'arba koisos tiknu keneged arba lashonos shel geula, v'loshen shlishi v'go'alti eschem bezroya netuya, v'haravi v'lakachti eschem lilam. Amru ben shlishi l'ravi lo yishte. V'hatam ki elu shnei dvorim ein hefsek beineim. Ki lokach go'al Hashem yizborach es Yisrael liyos lahem le'lokim. The Haim Yu Imoy. So it's, in other words, it's this connection that we have to make, because it's not obvious. We might think that the three have value without the fourth. We might think that the physical redemption has a meaning on its own. And therefore, Dafka over here, we say, Bein Shlishi L'Revi Lo Yafsik, because we want to emphasize the connection between the Geulas Haguf and the Geulas HaNefesh. The Gemara tells us, Arba Kasi Tiknu Rabbanon Derech Cherus Kol Chad V'Chad Navid Bei Mitzvah. And that's why they were masaken that each kois should be Navid Bei Mitzvah. So from the beginning of the Derech Cherus, from the beginning of the long road to freedom, we emphasize that Dalit Koisos Tiknu Rabbanon Derech Cherus Kol Chad V'Chad Navid Bei Mitzvah. As soon as we have a mashu of Cherus, we immediately dedicate that to mitzvahs, because we realize that all Cherus is only in order that we should be able to connect with the Velakachti Eschem Li La'om. Okay, Rabbi Isai, I wish you a good Shabbos.